Another way that we can grow as leaders is that we remember that we don't own people and that we need to be preparing them for even the next assignment and preparing them to leave and actually go do other things, greater works than even they might do with us. And so it is never good when people own people. Just in general, let's try to avoid that in every category of our life. When we try to control and we try to own them, we actually may be holding them back from the very thing that God is calling them to do. And I'm sorry, I do not want to be there on Judgment Day when people that I've led or I've been responsible for are being held in account to their obedience, and I'm the one that told them not to do the thing that God was telling them to do. As leaders, we should tremble at the idea that God is God and we are not, and that He can lead the people that we're called to serve actually away from us, and that we need to not try to cling to people. And actually it produces tremendous loyalty when we don't try to control people. So when we think about how can we empower the people that we're serving to leave better than they came. An example of this, which is really stark contrast to much of what we might experience, is in Mark chapter 5. You have Jesus talking to a man who is demonized and who was famous in that region for being demonized, and Jesus casts these demons out of him, and immediately this guy is now free, and he asked Jesus if he could come follow him. And I'm telling you, I don't know anybody who wouldn't have been like, oh, totally, come to me, and I'll mentor you, and you can be one of my main leaders. And we would have so looked at how could we leverage this testimony for our own benefit or our own impact, our own ministry. And yet Jesus says to this guy, go and tell of the good thing that God has done for you. He gives him his own ministry minutes after he just got set free of all kinds of demons. Again, this is in stark contrast to leaders that are trying to control, that set unbiblical standards of what it means to be a minister, where we expect these people to be a finished product. And so it doesn't mean that we don't have accountability to what God speaks to people, that when He says to them, hey, you need to commit to this project, or you need to do this or whatever, I totally will challenge someone who says that God told them to do something and then they didn't do it. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But man, when God is telling people to go, let's be their biggest cheerleaders. Let's help celebrate them and launch them into their next season, knowing that if we serve them well, then the reward that they get in that is actually ours as well, and that we're going to be able to make a greater and greater impact as we commission people and send them out to go and obey God. I want you to think about Jesus in this light. Is if you imagine if Jesus was here and He was doing your ministry or your life or your whatever God's called you to do, don't you think He would do a better job? Don't you think He would be somebody that would be more effective at it? And yet He chose to leave, go to heaven, send the Holy Spirit, and empower you to go out and to do greater works than Him. And so let's have that same mentality to say, you know what, we need to empower and invest in and develop the people around us that they might become greater leaders than us. A practical takeaway from this point is to take time and pray for each of the people that God has asked you to take responsibility for, and say, God, how can I partner with you to prepare them for their next assignment?